Hello, everybody, and welcome to another great episode of Boss Talks. This is episode 62. We have a great guest, I cannot speak. Jenna Juniper, and she is out of the Arizona market, the Phoenix area, and been in the industry for quite some time. Done a lot of work in probably a side of the business that a lot of people haven't when it comes to compliance and things around just making sure everybody's dotting the I's and crossing the T's and, avoiding risk and all the things, which she is probably in high demand because most people aren't trying to do that work, right? And they don't want to make any mistakes. That's the big thing, right? But she's also got some great stories when it comes to this industry from her own experience and also when it comes to the people she talks to, because we all know there's some crazy things that happen in multifamily. In fact, she's going to start her own podcast and show kind of stemming off of that. So that should be fun because I've got my own personal experience when it comes to these types of stories, and they just keep going. So there should be plenty of content when it comes to that. And so that should be actually kind of a humorous and entertaining take on these shows and talking to people. But she's also got a personal story when it comes to the topic of kind of housing, Section 8 housing, homelessness, and kind of is a part of what drives her to make these types of things better with her consultant work and making housing something that more people can get their hands on, so to speak, get housed, get off the streets. And she does some great work with her consultant work that kind of helps tackle that topic as well. So we're soon going to add her to the show. But before we get there, I'm Evan Happel. I am your host for Boss Talks. I work for a company called Community Boss, and we have a great solution that helps you manage the physical spaces of your community, whether that's parking, amenities, or mapping. We can even generate revenue through that space and make it a fair environment for all to use and enjoy as residents and make your life better as a property manager. So if you have any questions on that, by all means, hit me up. But today we're bringing Jenna to the show. All right, Jenna, thanks for being here.
Hi, Evan. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So before we get into it, I have some questions to ask you that I ask all my guests. And the first question is around building community. We're, as a company called Community Boss, I myself am a fan of building community. And so I like to ask, how is it that you build community in your personal and professional life?
Well, right now we build community on multiple levels. From a professional level, we are all about bringing individuals together and finding decent, safe, and sanitary housing across the United States, not just here in Arizona. And so, what we do is we try and partner nonprofits with housing, basically building that community awareness of the services that sometimes nonprofits offer that our housed individuals don't always know about. So we're spreading that awareness of the resources that are available within our communities to our residents that might not have those resources to find the additional resources. So that's really what we're doing on a company-wide level. And on a personal level, I spend my time within the community working with the homeless, really dedicating my time to be with them and see what barriers are presenting for them that are preventing them to get into housing. And then we work with them, or I work with them, to get them into some sort of housing situation as quickly and as rapidly as possible.
Well,
So we're approaching it on all levels. We got to be active in this. Homelessness isn't going to end in one night.
No, it isn't. And I mean, we always are striving to end homelessness, but the reality is we're never going to probably end it completely, but we can always make strides to improve the situation. And hopefully when people experience homelessness, it's for a very short amount of time.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's so unique about the era we're in now is the reasons why people are homeless aren't the same reasons why they used to be homeless. And so we're seeing a whole different cycle and generation that is experiencing homelessness, that we're trying to ensure that it doesn't impact generations. And like
Hmm.
you said, it's just momentarily a situational thing where we can step in and assist and get them back on their feet. It's
Yeah,
it's a tough situation to be in.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for answering that question. Next question I have is around hosting somebody for dinner, being
Oh,
hospitable. So, if you
okay.
were to have somebody over for dinner, what would you make for them to make them feel at home and special?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I'm Italian, so of course, the first thing I'm doing is feeding them. That would be a homemade Italian meal, from the sauce to the meatballs, you name it. I would be preparing a homemade meal because it's the sense of love and just the time that I put into the meal, my energy that I'd want to share with them. But for me, sharing a meal with anyone is about just sharing my time and hearing their stories. So my focus would really be on learning about them. What is their story? What makes them tick? Everyone's got a unique story. And I think that's what makes uh, every connection that we make so memorable, is we've got that story to share. What is it?
Yeah. No,
What is
that's
it?
great.
Well,
That's
I'm
great.
all about stories.
Yeah. No,
Stories and memories and feeding
stories are
people.
great. Yeah, it's always interesting to learn things about people.
Oh, absolutely.
All
Absolutely.
right. And then final question, if you had a or what is your go-to coffee drink?
Oh, okay. I'm a straight black. Straight black every morning. I have my Keurig, and let me tell you, when that sucker goes down, I am I am not in a good mood. But straight black coffee. I don't like creamer. I like to be energized and charged for the day, and I'm not gonna lie, it typically ends up being about 2 to 3 cups of coffee a
Oh,
day. It's
wow.
not just one.
Okay. So are
Hence
you
all the energy.
you're not a morning person then?
So I actually am. That's the funny thing. I get up at 4:30 in the morning.
Oh,
I go
wow.
for my morning walks, but I have to have my coffee all throughout the morning to keep me going.
Gotcha. Yeah. Man, 4:30.
I know.
I don't know how you people do that.
Not the only time I get peace and quiet in the house, and peace and quiet
Okay.
in my walk, so I can just focus on meditating and setting my mindset straight and getting ready for the day. It's kind of my me time.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
It's good to make sure that happens.
Oh yes.
All right.
And
Well,
in
thank
Arizona,
you.
it's about the only time where it's not hot. So
Oh, that's true. Yeah, if you wanna go outside and enjoy a walk, you're doing it at 4 in the morning.
yes. In Arizona, yes.
Otherwise, you're inside.
Yep,
So,
that's pretty much it. That's what treadmill's for.
yep. Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know how my parents actually recently moved to, Arizona after retiring, and but they end up leaving during the summertime because it's 120 degrees or
Yep.
whatever, and they're like, "Yeah, we're not staying here."
They're the smart ones. They're what we call the snowbirds. They
Yeah.
come for the fall and they leave during the summer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're out of here because it's like they don't have a reason to just they don't have a job there, so they
No,
just leave.
no.
So, yeah, it's crazy.
Mhm.
Well, thank you for answering those questions, and now I just want to jump right in, and really start with your story because I know that there's a personal reason for the work you do,
Mhm.
and maybe people don't know that. And so I'd love to just dive in as to what you personally experienced. I think it was with your son
Mhm.
and what drives you in your work.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love sharing my story because, as I always like to start off, no one wants to go into housing. When we grow up, we want to be teachers, we want to be astronauts. No one says, I'm going to go into Section 8 housing or I'm going to go into compliance. We envision something else. And so for me, I always wanted to be a teacher. I had this heart for the community and helping others. And I, at a young age, made some poor decisions like we all do in our lives. And that led me to be in an unhealthy and abusive relationship where I found myself just struggling day to day. I shouldn't say a single parent, but I was parenting my son who was an infant at that time. And I'll never forget, I was standing in a Walmart parking lot and a woman approached me and she said, "Have you ever heard of Section 8 housing?" And I said, "No." She goes, "You should go check out this apartment complex right down the road. They take care of some of your rent." And she couldn't really explain the whole story to me, but just knew that the property down the road helped families out with rent. And so I went over the very next day and I didn't know what to expect. I didn't even have any hope really. It was just, let me see what I can gather. And sitting down and having this conversation with the leasing agent and her asking me all these questions about my income, my status, I honestly felt embarrassed. I felt uh, the lowest of the low, and I didn't have any hope. And after several minutes, she turns this piece of paper around and she shows me what my rent portion was going to be. And it was less than $400 a month. And the weight that was lifted off my shoulders, knowing that I could afford a roof over my head, I now had the option and door opening for me to get out of this unhealthy relationship and potentially start over, was just what triggered my love and passion for housing.
Hmm.
And so, of course, I took advantage of that opportunity. I moved into that apartment. I got out of that relationship and I immediately wanted to go into housing. And so that's exactly what I did. I found a temp agency a few weeks later and I said, I want to go work for an apartment complex. I want to do what this individual did for me. And here we are almost 17 years later, and I now oversee a team of I've got about 18 active consultants with about 48 on our wait list. So we are rapidly growing, and it's just, I'm so humbled for the opportunity that was given to me that I want to make sure that I can continue doing that for other, not just single mothers, but other families that are in those situations that I was once in, and give them a sense of hope. So that's
Yeah.
my story.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And I mean, when you were going through it, I'm sure it was a humbling experience, a time
Mm-hmm.
where, again, you had expectations that, oh, I'm going to be a teacher or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And then you find yourself in a situation where you're needing help.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's seeking, like, starting their life hoping for that, right? Um, but at the end of the day, the help is there, and there's times where we need the help.
Yes. Yes.
And having people that can be, I think, available and empathetic to the situation because they've either been through it or they just really understand and they just care. Um, I can only imagine how helpful that is. And can you explain a little bit? I'm we're not going to spend the whole time talking about um, like your company necessarily, but I do think it'd be interesting to know and for others to hear like the work you guys are doing and providing.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that the consultants that you have in your company are offering, and who are they offering it to?
Yeah. So my team of consultants, what we do is we basically go anywhere nationwide and we assist property management teams and housing authorities do a multitude of different things, from being on site and helping lease up the property when it's in leasing status or even just the occupancy is jeopardized. We send boots on the ground to help stabilize the property and get that occupancy built back up. Then what we also do is we provide third-party compliance, which is what we are most renowned for, and that is overseeing the resident files both remotely and on site. And so we can go in when there's late renewals, or if a property just wants third-party compliance to make sure their files are in compliance, we can do it remotely. And that's where we really broke into our niche in our industry. Is we're one of the few agencies that are out there, and there are hundreds, but really with a nationwide over 500,000 apartment complexes, we're all really in this industry together, and we focus on ensuring that the ownership or management has that peace of mind that their files are in good compliance, whether we're on site or remote. And finally, we do training. We offer training for everything that's compliance or affordable housing related, and we do it both remotely and on site. So I've got kind of three buckets that we're able to fill with our organization and assist companies through this process. We have consultants, though, that assist and only assist nonprofits with their transition to affordable housing. And so that's one of the areas that we certainly partner with and assist.
Yeah, can you speak to that one specifically? Because I know it kind of hits on like something you're passionate about, and also maybe there's communities that are either affordable or have a lot of Section 8, or even there's obviously government run housing that also they're dealing with that exclusively. And so how is it that you guys are coming alongside them to help?
So a lot of it is nonprofits have some sort of service that they want to offer to our residents, or they actually want to become the investor or management team. So we're seeing kind of both of those avenues really happen right now. And in both cases, we can assist the nonprofits. Whether it's they want to get into housing as a management or ownership team, we walk alongside them through the entire process of applying for tax credits or interviewing management teams, ensuring that they feel comfortable with this new development and this new management team. And then should they choose just to offer their services on site, we work with them to find appropriate housing that would be best suitable for their services and really ensure that their services are going to be successful both for them and our residents. So we kind of hit it from both avenues. Really, there's no nonprofits that we wouldn't work with. And so any nonprofits that are interested or offer services that could benefit residents, I would love to connect with, so that way I can assist them in partnering with the local agencies, local property management teams, you name it, we can find some sort of partnerships and connections.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the work you're doing, and I hope it continues to grow, and people are compliant, but also more people are getting those a place to live, and more affordable housing is becoming available. So
yes, it is. We're hoping more and more becomes available.
Yeah. And I mean, more needs to be built in order for that. So
you can't even build it quick enough. That's the other problem. It's funding it, it's building it. It's that continual cycle that we're seeing. We can't even build it quick enough.
What other than being built, are there things that maybe you help with this too, that you see as being roadblocks to affordable housing becoming available, or even developers going that route? They just steer clear of it because it's too much of a headache.
Yeah, it's the whole NIMBY mindset, not in my backyard. There's a lot of communities that are just saying, no, we don't want it here. We don't want it in our communities. And so we're actually finding that the holdup is on the community level. And what we're trying to educate communities is that embracing affordable housing and our homeless can actually advance your community. And we're seeing rehabs come in. We're seeing community centers being rebuilt, community parks being rebuilt. So it can become a community collaborative initiative. It just needs the right partnerships and the right group of people to come in and do it. So that's the biggest holdup we're seeing right now, is the NIMBY mindset from community.
Right. Because people, they're ultimately afraid that crime is going to increase.
Yes.
Their property value, if they're a homeowner, is going to go down. There's fears, right? So I can see the biggest thing is like education, helping people understand that somebody living in an apartment doesn't bring crime.
No.
It's people that don't have a house that
Yeah.
probably are ultimately bringing crime.
Yes. Yes. The
Yeah,
ones that don't have a stable roof over their head. Yes,
right,
it is.
right, right. Because they're trying to they commit crimes to get things so that they can sell it, hawk it,
Yep.
still get food to eat, to whatever. So
To live. Yep.
yeah, yeah,
It's a vicious cycle.
right. Yeah. So
Vicious
yeah, give
cycle.
people a house. It's important. It's an important step. But in but
Monumental
in
concept.
but in general, I think people have that mindset of just in apartments in like if you're gonna bring multifamily into our city, they just defaultly think that's a negative. Like that
Mhm.
is they think that, you know, the mindset is apartments are low income, like
Mhm.
out the gate. And it's like, no, have you looked at the rent of most apartments? It's obviously not low income. It's not a widespread like
Not lately, no,
no,
no.
no. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's education. People that have never lived in apartments have no clue.
Mm-mm.
So yeah.
No, it's hard. And a lot of them don't even know the resources that are out there for additional housing or vouchers or just the resources that are available for them if they can't pay their rent. And since
Mhm.
COVID, we've seen such an influx of those resources. So it's a lot of just community awareness and sharing of our resources.
Right. Yeah, totally. Well,
Hmm.
thank you for touching on that a little bit and
Yeah.
sharing what it is your company does, because I'm sure there are people that are listening now or in the future that could benefit from your service. So
We'd
that's
love it.
great.
We would love it. We're here to help.
Awesome. So when it comes to just your passions and other things that you were wanting to hit on, um, you wanted to talk about just the topic of like basically mentorship of others, those that are getting, whether it's in this industry or maybe just breaking out into a career, um, what you would tell them to pursue or to work on for themselves in the world of like self-care, and
Yeah.
even knowing how to like advocate for yourself and say no. So what is
Oh,
it that you maybe experienced for yourself that makes you passionate about that specifically, and how are you doing that, and mentoring
yeah.
people?
Well, and so I'm all about female empowerment. And as we spoke on, I left a career where I decided to open up my own company 5 years ago. And that was a very scary
Oh
jump
yeah,
to make.
for sure.
Without the stable income, it's scary. And so what I do is I empower females via LinkedIn, social media. We've got an empowerment group that we use through our organization as well, where we help elevate individuals to feel confident in them making their decisions to switch over to becoming self-employed, whether that's helping get
Mm,
them aligned with legal services or just the marketing and an understanding as to what their profits might be or building a 5-year plan. But I always tell entrepreneurs, first of all, you got to have a game plan. You've got to know where you want to go. You can't just jump in and have no clue as to what your next steps are going to be. So develop that game plan for 5 years, 3 years, whatever it might be, so you have a direction to go in. And
mm,
then, like you said, Evan, that's probably the best piece of advice I give consultants is learn to say no. Sometimes saying no to business is actually gaining more business, and it's saving your energy for a larger deal or something else. And so learning to say no is so, so important. Absolutely is. I mean, when do you think you mastered the concept of saying no?
I mean, I think you get to a point where when you're young, you don't have confidence to say you know enough, or that you're an expert in something. So you tend to like just say yes, right? Because you want to
Mm-hmm.
prove yourself. Um, So I think there's dependent on like what you're doing and like what stage of your career it is. Um, I think there's absolutely certain things you should say no to. Like if there's like if you're in a job and they're taking advantage of you
Mm,
because they think, oh, they don't know better, or
yeah,
um, they're young, or whatever it is. Um, that is definitely something that I think if people could get advice and whatnot, that would be very helpful. Um, when it comes to me and when I learned, I mean, I think I I think it's been somewhat recent that I not recent, I guess it's not recent, but probably took me a while to like advocate for myself to the degree I should. Um because I was always in the mindset of like putting other people first, which I still have that mindset of, you know, being there for others, but I've become more okay with being an advocate for myself. And I
yep,
think that's what I would tell other people is it's okay to advocate for yourself.
yes, yes, please.
Yeah.
It's just a concept you have to mature and be ready for.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people are.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people
Well, and
are.
I think we're you don't necessarily think you can or should. And so having somebody say, "No, you need to be an advocate for yourself." You shouldn't just stay in that situation of work where they're basically taking advantage of you.
Mhm.
Um, there's other jobs. You can
Absolutely.
you can and I think fear is the biggest thing that hold people back and why they allow that kind of thing to happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. And working through that fear is something that some of us really struggle with because it's the fear of change. It's the fear of the unknown and where am I going to go next? Will another job treat me better? But like you said, it's knowing your value. It's knowing when to say no and just draw that line in the sand. Unfortunately, we see that in every industry. It doesn't matter which one we're in, whether we're talking about property management, compliance, you name it. It's in every industry. So that is
Yeah.
definitely useful advice for any entrepreneurs that are out
Yeah, absolutely.
there. Mm-hmm.
And just any job, like, you know,
Yes.
whether it's starting your own business
Yes.
or not, but you bring up a good point when it comes to like having your own if you go out on your own to start a business, um doing work for just anybody, um you're right, you should say no to
Mm-hmm.
like some people would say, "No, I mean, I just need to get paid."
Yep. Take every job that's offered to me.
Yeah,
That's the
but
way every brand new entrepreneur always works. You take every opportunity given to you, and it's not a bad mindset to have. It's just you burn yourself out very quickly, and
mhm,
you've got to learn your value and what to put your time and energy into.
right. Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
sure you know it's you want to take everything that comes your way. You're
Yeah,
eager.
yeah,
That
for
launch,
sure.
it's, you see the money, the dollar signs come in or the dollar bills come in, and we overbook ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then tied to kind of saying no is definitely self-care. So, how have
Mm.
you learned to take better care of your own self?
Yeah, that's always been something that's tricky for me, especially as an entrepreneur. It's been harder and harder over the past few years. Really, it is my me time, like we talked about in the mornings, where I spend an hour walking, and we live out in the desert, so I'm able to actually go out in the desert and watch the sunrise in the morning. Sometimes see javelina, but that is my time where I don't allow my brain to think of anything business related, nothing related to my kids or fiance. It is all about just manifesting and just me. Where do I want to see myself in 5 years? So I spend that time really giving myself time to envision my future, plan it
Mhm.
out, manifest it. And I feel so recharged and energized by the time I've come back to my house and finish up my walk. I'm ready to take on the day and the challenges of the day. And I know others will go to the gym in the mornings, go for runs, bike rides, whatever it might be, but taking that you time for self-care and not having it be related to business, to anything else, but just dedicating it to you is so, so important. I see, and I'm sure you see this too, Evan, so many professionals get burnt out.
Oh yeah.
They don't implement any type of self-care. Whatever works for them, they don't implement it. And so you lose great individuals in your industry to burnout. And I certainly don't want to do that. And so that's why I have my daily walks built in. Even if I don't want to go and I've had to have 2 cups of coffee, I'm going to go out there and do my walks for my self-care.
Yeah.
I
Well,
have
that's
to.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good. It's probably good and something I should also put in place, but having some kind of almost ritual where
Mhm.
it's something you do on a regular basis so
Yes.
that you're making sure it happens
Mm-hmm.
versus, well, it'll happen. Well, honestly, the biggest thing with intentionality for yourself and self-care is, or I should say, the biggest thing for self-care is intentionality. Because most other people aren't telling you to take care of yourself.
No, no,
I mean,
no, it
some
is. We're
people might.
adults.
Yeah. So we gotta take that take that on for ourselves for sure.
We
So
don't have our parents telling us to take care of us anymore, unfortunately.
yeah,
That's out the door.
yeah. We transitioned. If we have kids, that's our job now. And
Yeah, exactly. I'd love to
yeah,
do a role reversal day with my kids one day and have them take care of me at a young age. It'd be great.
right. Yeah,
And
I
cook for me
know.
all day and clean up.
Yeah. How many kids do you have?
So I have two. I've got a 17-year-old son and a 13-year-old daughter. So they keep me busy.
Okay.
Very, very busy.
Yeah. I mean, my son just went to middle school,
Oh,
and so he's the oldest, and then I have two others that are younger. But um yeah, it's funny that the stages, I think they're just consistent, right? Like every kid, they're growing, there's hormones, all the things, and like
drama.
they just start changing, and you're like, what happened to my little guy?
Yes. Trust me, I'm a short little Italian woman, and my son, probably at the age of 10 or 11, shot up above me. So now I have a son that can literally rest his arm on my head and just thinks it's hilarious that he's taller than mom.
Right. Of
Yeah,
course.
try parenting like that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm the boss of you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny.
I do what I can.
Yep.
Oh,
Well, the last thing I want to hit on is really what you're moving towards in doing a show, which
yeah.
doing a show, man,
I
it's
know.
not for the faint of heart, right?
I
And
know.
like I already offered off the air, I want you to know that I'm here for you if you need any help and tips getting it going.
I
Because
love
I mean, you don't know till you know,
it.
right? But
Right.
you can have probably a shortcut to knowing. So um yeah, there's a lot of things I did early on, especially that made me want to throw in the towel. So,
No.
but
Oh. Well, you
I
made it to your
didn't.
60-second episode, so that's going to be a good sign.
That's true. Yeah, I think I've hit a rhythm. So, we're still rolling strong. So appreciate that has happened and that we're still going. But the thing that you want to really, and I hit on it earlier, was stories from the work of property management when it
Yeah.
comes to handling of situations on site, when it comes to residents, even probably amongst property management professionals, all the gamut, right? Like any profession, there's definitely stories, but when you're dealing with people's home and how they live and the dynamics of that, that's a whole nother ball game. So
Right.
what are, like, I know that's where you're headed and you're going to have a show, which is
Hmm.
great, and I look forward to being somebody that listens to some of those.
Love it.
But what are some stories just that you've personally either experienced or recently even heard that people just are like, they'll probably resonate with it first of all, but
Yes.
um yeah, what do you have any
Yes.
that are fresh in
Yes.
your mind?
Yes. So the show is called TLC, The Landlord Chronicles. Couldn't have picked a
Okay.
better name for it. And like you said, the concept behind it is all of the funny stories that we hear in property management and in real estate. And so I hear them all the time. And every time I hear a story, I go, oh, that'd be a great coffee table book, or that would be a great episode of a show. As we were talking about, this could be a reality show. People wouldn't believe some of the things that we deal with and how residents treat us. I can say some of my top ones that I always love sharing. The first one is I was doing a unit inspection to prepare a property in actually Albuquerque, New Mexico. And when we walked in the kitchen was one of those kiddie pools that you get at like Walmart, filled
Okay.
with water, and there was an alligator swimming inside of it.
Of
Can
course there
officially say,
was.
oh yeah, of course. That's what we have. We can't have regular cats and dogs in our apartments. We have alligators or crocodiles or whatever it was. It was the best moment of my life walking into inspections. I can say I did not expect that. Did not expect that.
No, that's
I
crazy.
actually had one the other day where we went to go do an audit in the morning, and 10 minutes before the audit, the property had just had a huge rainstorm, and the roof caved in on one of the units that was being inspected. Because, 10 minutes before the inspector shows up, this is what's going to happen. We're going to have a roof that literally collapses. So,
Oh, good grief. So was that a property that was like up for sale, or what was the
no, it
reason
was
for
just
the
a
inspection?
routine state audit. And so part of being an affordable property is you have state agencies or HUD come out and audit your property every 1 to 3 years. This was a routine audit, and they just got hit with a heavy rainfall, didn't know there was roof issues, and
I don't think they're going to pass that inspection.
no, no, no. And out of it, it had to be one of the units that was selected too for the audit. That makes it even worse.
Oh, well, I
Well,
mean,
skylight we put
I
in.
guess they know about their issues now, and they're probably
Oh
going to
yeah.
check all the different buildings now.
Oh,
And
of course, of course. I had it
well,
where I had a property that tried to pull a prank on me, and they were successful in pulling this prank. And we did property walks, and they had taken a dummy leg and shoved it in a bush, put a sock and a shoe on it. So when I turned the corner, there's this bush and this leg sticking out of the bush with a sock, a shoe. I mean, it looked so real that jumped. I jumped, and they thought it was, of course, hilarious. So,
well,
yeah.
that was really nice of them.
Of course, we gotta have some fun on property tours. It can't just be all inspections.
That's funny. That
Yeah.
that do
What
you
would you
get?
add? You've got to have some good stories.
Oh, well, I mean, so back in 2000, starting 2009, I was a on-site community team in it was probably a C plus B minus community,
Okay.
built in the probably 50s. It wasn't super nice, but I lived there. My wife and I did community building. We actually put on resident events and things like that. So
Ooh.
we didn't work for the community in the sense of getting a paycheck, but we actually lived there for free and then did the events, kind of in partnership with the community. Um, so there's just so many things. But the community that I lived in was right near an area that's known to have a lot of drug issues and
Oh.
prostitution, and all the things. And there was a person that came to be known to be a pimp, and they lived above us.
Oh no.
And I was a resident living there too, and they had loud music one night. Well, I called the police on them, and they were visited by the police. And then once the police left, they decided to come banging on my door, assuming it
Oh
was me, which
no.
they were accurate, but I don't know how they knew it was us necessarily. Um, I really
Oh
hope the cop didn't say your
yeah.
neighbor called the cops on you. Especially because the cops probably knew that this person was a person of interest in the sense
Mhm.
of being in the
Yeah.
prostitution arena. So yeah, that was fun. So that's just kind of a picture of like where I was living. There was a neighbor of mine. He was on assistance and had some mental health challenges, and I um, went next door, and he actually, I moved in and I was gung ho, like trying to make friends with neighbors, and this is what I'm here to do. And he offers to have me over, and I was like, well, absolutely, this is
Of
why I'm
course.
here. So I go over to his house, and it's not in great shape. Um, he's got furniture that's in rough shape. He's got cigarette burns on the
Oh,
wood of his furniture and things like that. And I'm like, no problem. This is why I'm here, to see everybody and to, you know, um, and I'm sitting there, and he, out of nowhere, he's in the kitchen, and he goes, yeah, do you want any chicken wings? And I'm seeing the state of his house, and I'm like, I don't think I want any food necessarily. And I go, no, I'm not hungry. And he goes, oh no, I wasn't gonna eat. I was gonna do some drugs. So he had nicknamed the
what?
drug he of choice for him as a chicken wing. And then he was just like very nonchalantly, so I mean, I'm gonna do those, so if you don't want to, you can probably go home. And so i
Oh
i
my
got
God.
up and I left, and this is my immediate neighbor. So yeah, I went
Lovely.
home. I went home.
Smart decision. Smart move on that one.
I could write a book. I could go on and on. I could be a regular in your show for
I
sure.
think you're gonna have to be. It's already established. You've got to be on. I want to hear more of these stories. That's what it's all about.
Yeah,
All about.
yeah,
They're just gonna keep coming. I know people won't believe some of the stuff we hear, see, and deal with.
yeah. No, it's and honestly, going into that, I was very naive. I was all of 24
Oh,
or 5 years old, newly ish married, and we were just again naive in thinking, oh, we're gonna just bring and we did a positive presence to this community. It could really use some positivity here, and we were just met with a harsh reality of how people live, and
oh,
just the craziness that is going on in the world. So
yep, yep. Wow, what a great first experience.
yeah,
I'm surprised you
literally.
stayed in apartment management.
I know. Oh, one more.
What?
So I moved in. I was actually unloading our um, U-Haul, I believe, and there were like three cop cars outside my building, um, investigating something. So I'm pulling up, and I didn't even ask the cop, but the cop decided he thought he was going to play a joke on me as a
Oh,
new resident, clearly moving in. He just says, don't check the dumpster. That's where the body is.
what? What? And you moved in?
Yeah, but there was no body. He thought he was, you guys.
Oh,
Anyways,
jeez.
I'm just like, wow, all right, this is where, yeah, exactly. I just moved
Yeah.
in. There was cops, and anyways, it was an interesting world that I lived in. I'll be honest. It was so,
Listen,
anyways.
Lord, you never move in when a cop is forewarning you whether they're playing jokes out or not.
Yeah,
Jeez.
yeah. When you move into your building and there's three cop cars, some red flags should go up.
Immediately. Yeah, I'd be right there supporting that decision. Supporting that decision. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if anybody needs some consultation around moving into a community, I can help you navigate that.
What not to experience,
Yeah,
your red flags.
what you should not move into.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I think that would be a great show as well.
Yeah.
These are
So
the red flags to look for in apartments when you move in. Make sure the lights are working, make sure you actually
yeah,
have cabinets,
right,
refrigerators.
right. Yeah, everything works. Yeah. Check your appliances. Check
Yeah.
sure there's no water damage and oh gosh, yeah. I could go on and on. I'm gonna stop there.
Oh,
We'll just have a show. It'll be good.
see? I knew it would be a brilliant idea because everybody's got something to say about it. We've got so much just so much we deal with that it'd be a good coffee table book.
Oh
But I'm
yeah,
gonna turn it into a podcast.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing a little bit about that and just the work you do. It's super
Yeah.
needed and just um, hard to navigate, right? The
Mhm.
world of compliance, but also making things available and helping people navigate affordable housing, just like you needed somebody to help you back when you were
Yeah.
trying to find housings. There's people that are in that boat every
Yeah.
day. So that's great work, and I hope that you get aligned with the right people and companies to make that even more available.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. This was so much fun. I love
Yeah,
chatting with you.
absolutely.
We'll
So thank you
pick this up
again.
later.
Oh, absolutely, and hopefully, yeah. Once you start that show,
Yeah.
let me know, and I'll jump on with you.
Yes. Start saving your stories now.
Oh yeah. Oh, they're all up here. Believe me. Um, well, thank you so much, Jenna, for being guest number 62 on Boss Talks. And just like she jumped on, if you're watching right now or in the future, if you were inspired by her, obviously reach out to Jenna, connect with her on LinkedIn or with her company. And I'm sure she would love to chat with you and give you mentorship. But also, if you are interested in being a guest on Boss Talks, reach out to me. I would love to discuss what makes you a boss. What is it that drives you as a leader? What's your story that put you into the position you are now? And what drives you every day? So I love hearing these stories. I love learning about new people and talking to all the bosses of the multifamily industry, just like Jenna. So until next Wednesday, this has been Boss Talks, and I thank you for listening.